In the heart of a dense forest, where the trees stood tall and the shadows grew long, a group of campers had set up their tents. The air was thick with the promise of summer, and the sounds of chirping crickets and rustling leaves filled the night. They had come to escape the mundane world, to find solace in the wilderness, unaware of the lurking horror that awaited them. The campers were a diverse group, each with their own reasons for seeking refuge in the woods. There was Sarah, a young woman with a troubled past looking for a fresh start. Mark and Lisa, a couple hoping to rekindle the spark in their relationship. Alex and Jamie, childhood friends seeking adventure. And finally, the enigmatic Dr. Elias, a man of science with a fascination for the unknown. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the forest came alive with eerie sounds. It was on the first night that they heard it, a faint, distant whispering that seemed to seep from the very roots of the ancient trees. They dismissed it as the wind playing tricks on their ears, but deep down, an unsettling feeling began to settle in their hearts. Over the next few nights, the whispering grew louder, and the campers couldn't ignore it any longer. Dr. Elias, ever the rationalist, insisted it was a mere auditory illusion. But Sarah, with her haunted past, felt a deep unease in the pit of her stomach. Then, on the fifth night, as the moon hung low in the sky, they heard it unmistakably, a chilling howl that sent shivers down their spines. It was no ordinary creature. It was something unnatural, something ancient. They gathered around the campfire, their faces pale and their eyes wide with fear. Dr. Elias reluctantly admitted that he couldn't explain the source of the eerie sounds, but he assured them that there must be a logical explanation. They decided to stay close together, to keep the fire burning and to remain vigilant. But the creature lurking in the shadows was relentless. Each night, it drew closer, its malevolent presence growing stronger. It watched them from the darkness, its eyes glowing with an otherworldly hunger. As the days passed, their fear turned into paranoia. Trust began to erode, and they turned on each other, suspecting that one of them might be behind the horrors they were experiencing. But the truth was far more sinister than any of them could have imagined. One by one, the campers began to disappear. Their tents were torn to shreds, and the forest floor was stained with blood. The creature, a ghoul-like monstrosity with jagged teeth and bony limbs, had finally revealed itself. Dr. Elias, the man of reason, had been the first to fall victim to the creature's insatiable appetite for human hearts. Then it was Sarah, her troubled past unable to protect her from the horrors of the present. Mark and Lisa, once deeply in love, met a gruesome end at the hands of the creature. Alex and Jamie, childhood friends turned bitter rivals, were the last to go, their friendship crumbling in the face of impending doom. And so the forest claimed them all, one by one, until there was no one left but the creature and the haunting echoes of their desperate cries. The whispering in the woods had been a warning, a harbinger of their doom that they had ignored until it was too late. In the end, there was no escape, no redemption, no happy ending. The creature had feasted on their hearts, and their souls were forever lost to the darkness of the forest. As the sun rose on the blood-soaked ground, it cast long, sinister shadows, a silent witness to the horrors that had unfolded beneath its unrelenting gaze. The forest had claimed them, and it would keep its terrible secret hidden among its ancient trees, a grim reminder that some mysteries are best left unsolved. The ominous shadow of the hillside inn loomed over the small, desolate town of Ashen Hollow. Its brooding presence cast a pallor upon the once thriving community, and its unsettling reputation had spread far beyond the town's borders. Nestled at the edge of the forsaken forest, the hotel was a place where time had stopped, and nightmares came to life. The hillside inn had been constructed in the late 19th century, a grand structure of ebony wood and ominous, weathered stone. Its dark history had always been veiled in whispers and half-truths, a looming specter that the townsfolk had learned to avoid discussing. Even the bravest souls dared not approach its rotting skeletal gates after nightfall. Inside the inn, a labyrinthine maze of dimly lit corridors wound through its decaying interior. Ancient paintings of grim-faced individuals lined the walls, their eyes seeming to follow anyone who dared pass. The air was thick with a musty scent, a blend of dampness and despair that clung to every corner. The inn was a sanctuary of solitude for the lost souls who stumbled upon it, seeking shelter from the unforgiving world outside. But the most chilling aspect of the hillside inn was its bellboy, a wiry, sinister figure named Edgar. His sunken eyes bore the weight of untold horrors, and his sallow skin seemed to have absorbed the darkness that permeated the building. Edgar was not a mere employee, he was the keeper of the inn's dreadful secrets. Guests at the inn would often hear his footsteps echoing down the corridor, a metallic jingle accompanying each step as he pushed his brass cart laden with luggage. The guests, few and far between, had no choice but to rely on his assistance. Little did they know that beneath his servile demeanor lurked a depraved heart. The murders began quietly, like a whisper in the night. Each victim, a guest or a wanderer, would disappear without a trace, their belongings left untouched in their rooms. The townsfolk whispered in hushed tones about the curse of the hillside inn, attributing the disappearances to malevolent spirits that roamed the halls. But the truth was far more horrifying. Edgar, the bellboy, harbored an insatiable hunger for death. With the cunning of a predator, he selected his victims with meticulous care, studying their habits and weaknesses. He took perverse pleasure in playing a twisted game of cat and mouse within the darkened corridors. He would beckon them into shadowy corners, offering assistance with a chilling grin that sent shivers down their spines. Once he had lured them into his trap, Edgar would deliver the final blow with cold, merciless precision. His victims' lifeless bodies would be concealed in the inn's labyrinthine passageways, a macabre collection that grew with each passing night. The guests who remained were none the wiser, their unease overshadowed by the fear of the hillside inn itself. As the moonless nights grew longer, the town of Ashen Hollow became consumed by dread. The inn's ominous reputation had transformed into a deadly reality, and no one ventured near the cursed establishment. The once thriving town withered in the shadow of the hotel, its streets deserted, its people consumed by fear. The legend of the hillside inn, like a haunting melody, echoed through the annals of time, a cautionary tale that warned of the darkness that can fester within the hearts of men. And within its decaying walls, the bellboy, Edgar, continued his grim work, forever trapped in a macabre dance of death and despair. The hillside inn stood as a testament to the abyss that lurks within even the most unassuming places, where malevolence and madness can take root, growing like a creeping vine that chokes the life out of all who dare to draw near. And the bellboy, with his malevolent smile and jingling cart, remained the keeper of the inn's dreadful secrets, a phantom that haunted the nightmares of those who crossed its threshold. In the quaint, secluded town of Thorne, nestled beneath a shroud of perpetual fog, a sinister presence lurked. This sinister figure was known to the townsfolk as the Fingered Stalker. Shrouded in shadows, the stalker had a macabre penchant for breaking into homes under the cover of night, leaving behind a grisly calling card, severed fingers of the departed, carefully tucked beneath the pillows of unsuspecting victims. No one had ever glimpsed the stalker's face, but the townspeople spoke of eerie, ethereal laughter echoing through the night. Whispers of dread filled Thorne's streets, like a chilling breeze that refused to depart. In this tightly knit community, fear had become an uninvited guest in every home. The first victim, Mrs. Hawthorne, had woken one fateful morning to find a severed finger, gnarled and weathered, beneath her pillow. Her horrified shrieks resonated through the town, sending a collective shiver down every spine. The finger bore no ring, no identification, only a grotesque relic of death's cold grasp. As the days turned into weeks, more victims emerged. The town's constable was powerless, and the once peaceful streets of Thorne were now haunted by paranoia. Each morning, families awoke to the ghastly discovery beneath their pillows, as if the stalker reveled in their torment. The stalker's reign of terror persisted, shattering the tranquility that had long defined Thorne. In their desperate search for answers, the townspeople turned to superstition and suspicion, casting fearful glances at their neighbors and drawing curtains tightly shut. No one knew what sinister force drove the Fingered Stalker, or why they left severed fingers as their calling card. And so, the shadow of dread deepened,